We often deal with customers who have uneven eyebrows. One side is lower than the other. Initially, you would say that by raising the lower eyebrow, you would make the eyebrows look more symmetrical. Let's draw the shape this way. So you have finally completed the shape, and you are proud of it. But unfortunately, the client feels that a lower eyebrow is too high now. Remember that in this case, the lower eyebrow will always look higher for the customer, just because she is somehow used to her lower left side. The client likes the model on her right side. Why? Because on this side she has her own natural shape, and the hairs are covering the empty areas. The lower side of the eyebrow looks much higher for the customer. Also, the distance from the eyes to the eyebrows has become larger. This may have the following reasons. The eye on this side is higher, or the eyebrow contains little or no hairs and doesn't look natural for the customer. When you see the customer has a relative big difference between both eye heights, do not draw the eyebrows at exactly the same height, because the customer will not completely be satisfied with the model. My advice is to stay with the natural position of the eyebrows by just making small adjustments. In the end, it will save you a lot of stress and time. Why I can't see my first passes? Reasons: wrong stretching, low pressure, too superficial. When it comes to microblading, one of the most important factors is the stretching method. With a 3 or 4 point stretch on the skin, the needle can glide through the skin without causing any trauma. Right way of stretching. Stretch the skin with your thumb and index finger. Place your pinky on the skin and pull the skin down. Lift the skin up and at the same time stretch it with your thumb and index finger. Use your pink to hold the 3-point stretching. If you still have problems, ask your client to help you by pulling down the skin with gloves on her hands. Once you have the skin stretched, place the stroke slowly, counting until 4 while placing each stroke. Keep in mind that the slower you work, the more pigment will stay in each stroke. The slower you work, the fewer mistakes you will make. If you practice a lot on your stretching method and stay in the same depth of the skin throughout all the time, your healed results will come back perfectly. We must also not forget the angle of the blade while cutting the skin. Always keep the blade 90 degrees on the skin. Extra tips for the first passes. 1. For pigment tones, use one shade darker just for the first pass. 2. Use the stroke marker after your first pass for better visibility of the strokes. We all know we must hold the blade at a 90-degree angle. A sign that you've hit the proper depth, what is known as the sweet spot, is when you see a fine channel for split in the skin, oftentimes marked by pinpoint bleeding. But remember, not every skin is a bleeder. Stretch out small parts of the skin and slowly draw the first head strokes, all with the same pressure. Use a cotton swab to check on the depth of the head strokes. If you have a crispy stroke with or without pinpoint bleeding, you got this! No bleeding, no clear visible stroke. Did you stretch the skin properly? Did you work too fast? Or did you work too shallow? Bleeding and no clear visible stroke. Did you go a little too deep? Is the skin too thin or sensitive? Remember, if you go too shallow, the color won't stay. If you go too deep, you can cause scarring and the color will heal too ashy. Angle is the next important step. Don't apply too much pressure Apply only as much pressure as if you were holding a pen while writing. As long as the skin is stretched nice and tight and you're holding your blade straight, your strokes will look just fine. Don't squeeze the pen and keep your wrists relaxed. Go slow and draw the strokes. Pigment filling. The second passage allows you to go into the correct depth of the skin without going too deeply. This is the part of the treatment in which you go over the same strokes one by one until you see sufficient pigments in each stroke. One of the most common problems is to find the strokes to fill in between the natural eyebrow hairs. Stretch the skin and slowly move the hairs in the opposite direction. The moment you see the strokes, you stop and fill in the strokes, and so on. If you still have trouble seeing the strokes, you are probably sitting on the wrong side of your customer. Try to change your position. It often happens that the microblading professional sits on the wrong side of the customer during pigment filling. I will show you what I mean. Here I stand behind the customer and try to find the lowest strokes. And as you can see, I can't see them clearly. When I move to the right side of the customer, I clearly see the strokes. During these filling passes, it is extremely important that the strokes are always stretched parallel. Knowing and respecting the skin will help you microblade without overworking the skin. If the skin becomes more red and releases more wound fluid, listen to it and accept these signs which are telling you enough is enough. End your treatment as soon as you see this. If you proceed with a treatment, you will overwork the skin so badly that your healing results will fade more than usual. At the end, it's all about good results, customer satisfaction, and word-of-mouth advertisement. Your work will stand out to those who have been treated elsewhere and do not have the same results. They will also advertise for you. Keep in mind that you will do your job while respecting the skin and without hurrying during the treatment.